So the iPad Pro 2021 is rumored to come out soon, and a lot of you have been asking, should I wait? Well, let's ramble.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants them.
Hey, what's up guys? It's great to see you all again, and if you're new here, I'm Patrick, and this is why I ramble about tech and other stuff. So, a couple times a year, Apple announces new products or product updates during their events. The last big event was in November 2020 when the new M1 Macs were announced, and the next event is expected to happen in March. Although not everybody seems to agree, and different dates have been floating around the Twitter sphere as well as the YouTubes. I'm not a leaker, and I'm happy to leave that to the Twitterati like John Prosser or my good friend Saran Bites. If you don't know his channel, I'll put a link in the description. Definitely check him out, he's great. Anyway, there will be an event at some point in the near future, and there will be a new iPad Pro alongside AirTags if anybody cares. So if you're in the market for an iPad Pro, should you wait for that or should you buy the 2020 model? Well, that depends on a couple of things. First, let's have a look at what we might expect from the new model or the refresh, whatever you want to call it, and bear in mind that all of this is based on leaks and rumors and nothing is ever final with Apple until it ships. So combining all the rumors and all the leaks and all the gossip, there are a couple of things we can relatively safely assume to see in the 2021 iPad Pro. First, let's talk about the design. Not many changes are expected there. In 2018, the design was changed quite radically. Apple moved away from the curved look and the thick bezels in exchange for the sleek, rectangular, and somewhat boxy design we've grown to love, and which we now also have on the iPhone 12. It is very unlikely that Apple will make any significant changes here. The one recurring rumor is that the new iPad will be slightly thicker, and that makes a lot of sense to me because the second most recurring rumor is that the new iPads will have mini LED displays, and the thicker design might be necessary to accommodate the new display technology for things like heat dissipation. But that should be about it for the potential design changes. Speaking of the new displays, and that is to say if the rumors are accurate and the new iPad will have mini LEDs, this would be one of the major changes and one of the major selling points. Because with mini LEDs, the screens will be a lot better. They'll have blacker blacks, brighter whites, basically just better dynamic range. They will be less prone to screen burn, although that hasn't really been an issue anymore. And most importantly, mini LED technology means that the displays will be much more power efficient because each of the little LEDs will be individually controlled. And considering that the screen is the biggest consumer of battery power, this could potentially mean longer battery life. And that on what is essentially a mobile device is very attractive. You know, assuming that at some point in the near future we could actually move around again. So that's the screen. What else do we expect? For the 11-inch iPad Pro, the following things are rumored. We just talked about the mini LED display, and since the 2020 iPad Pro has a 120Hz refresh rate, it is safe to assume that the 2021 version will also have this. We also hear that there might be a slight increase in resolution. The front-facing camera might have a 10 megapixel resolution as opposed to the 7 megapixels it has now, which would be an improvement, but Apple isn't known for its great selfie cameras. On the backside, we expect a similar dual camera setup with a wide and an ultra-wide lens. And of course the LiDAR sensor. Another significant change might be a new chip based on the A14 Bionic, although we've heard alternative names like the A14X or A14Z. The 2020 iPad Pro has an A12Z chip, which is basically the 2018's A12X chip, but with more functioning cores. The new iPad Pro is expected to have this A14X or Z chip, and I really like the explanation by Rene Ritchie over on his channel, where he tells us that it will be basically the A14 chip which we see in the current iPhone and the iPad Air, but with the extra performance and graphics cores which would make the chip resemble the M1 chip which is found on the Macs. And that would of course be very significant, especially for very hungry apps like Photoshop, and if Apple is planning to release apps like Final Cut Pro for the iPad, which has been on my wish list for a long time. And coupled with the latest rumor that Apple might introduce a subscription-based model for Final Cut Pro, it doesn't seem that far-fetched anymore. I have mixed feelings about the subscription thing, but if Final Cut is coming to the iPad, I'll be one happy camper. Anyway, back to the specs. We expect 6 GB of RAM for the 11-inch and storage options starting at 128 gigs going all the way up to 1 TB. which is not a luxury if we do actually get Final Cut Pro, because you can't edit straight off an external drive on the iPad, and importing all of those 4K files and rendering them will take up a lot of space. Also, the new iPads are likely to support 5G. And to be honest, given the fuss Apple made about introducing 5G on the iPhone, it would be a bit strange if they didn't add it on the new iPads as well. The leakers don't seem to agree on millimeter wave, but frankly, do we really care? I'm personally hoping for Touch ID because we're probably going to be wearing our masks for a bit longer, but I'm not holding my breath. No pun intended. The 12.9-inch iPad will have roughly the same specs except higher resolution, and since it is a larger device, it will have a larger battery. Now, one of the things I'm personally really interested in, and you should probably also be interested in if you're debating whether to buy the new iPad Pro or the 2020 model, is whether there will be a new Magic Keyboard. I think this is especially relevant if you're considering an upgrade from your 2018 model or the 2020 model, because one, if there is a new iPad Magic Keyboard, it'll probably have some significant improvements over the current one, and two, probably more important question, will the new iPad be compatible with the current Magic Keyboard? Because that thing is crazy expensive. And I don't know how I feel about having to upgrade my Magic Keyboard as well as my iPad Pro. But let's talk about this potential Magic Keyboard and come up with a bit of a wish list. There seems to be a patent, which I saw on my buddy Saran's channel, for a design whereby the Apple Pencil can be stored in the hinge. This could be useful for travel, because I never really know where to put this thing, but then again, I don't really see that happening. There could be a row of function keys, although I didn't really miss them on the current design, and maybe a larger trackpad, and maybe some different materials on the outside because the current rubbery finish is a schmutz magnet, which I hate. The one huge thing on my wish list is more USB-C ports and maybe even a Thunderbolt port on the iPad itself. So back to the original question. Should you buy the current 2020 iPad Pro or should you wait for the new model? In my opinion, the only reason you should buy the iPad Pro right now is if you need an iPad Pro right now. And unless you don't have a computer and the iPad will be your only work device or your only computer, if you will, you don't need an iPad Pro right now. You might want one right now, trust me, I know what that's like, but you don't need one right now. So I'd wait for the launch of the new model to see what improvements are actually in it, and then decide. And even if you're most likely going to go for the 2020 model, I'd still wait, because chances are that the prices are going to drop on the 2020 models, and they certainly will drop in the second-hand market. Ultimately, of course, it is up to you, your needs, and your budget, which iPad makes the most sense to you. Guys, I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, please give it one of these. It really does help the channel. Subscribe if you want. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.